Chapter 108, Deals and Feels, 2. Halt! Arriving in front of a large gate, obstructing my path, with a stern expression, a muscular individual wearing a black uniform with a lock insignia on his right chest pocket appeared before me. Lightly glancing at me, he said, "State your purpose." Briefly glancing at the guard before me, instantly cold sweat appeared on my back. Though I didn't show it on my face, I could feel an immeasurable pressure emanating from the guard before me. He wasn't someone I could mess with. By my estimates, he was at least rank. To think the guards protecting the Leviathan building were ranked this tightly. This just went to show how much emphasis was placed on the students placed in the Leviathan building. Their whole building was guarded by ranked individuals. How crazy was that? Smiling politely, I responded, "I have someone whom I wish to talk to." Indifferently glancing at me, scrutinizing my body for a couple of seconds, the guard apathetically asked, "Appointment?" Momentarily taken aback, I couldn't help but ask, That's a thing? Hold on. Appointment? Why would I need to make an appointment to enter a dorm room? It's not like I was going to meet a famous CEO or the school directors." Noticing my confused expression, shaking his head, the guard sternly said, "It seems like you don't." "I apologize, but I can't allow you to enter. If you want to gain access to this building, you must make an appointment beforehand." "Wait, but I really do have to meet someone." "I apologize." TSK. Clicking my tongue, after seeing that the guard wouldn't budge, I could only helplessly turn back. Now what? There was no way I could sneak inside of the building considering how secured that place was. Did I have to give up and just look for another time to approach them? Sigh. I guess that was the only viable option I had at the moment. Sighing, as I walked back, I couldn't help but kick one of the rocks on the ground. Ridiculous. Why in the world would you need to make an appointment to enter a dorm? When Amanda came to my dorm, I didn't see her making an appointment. Discrimination, I say. Moreover, I never mentioned the fact that appointments needed to be made when entering the Leviathan building in my novel. Was it perhaps because in the novel Kevin only used to interact with certain individuals and not the lower-ranked ones? Hence why such situations never occurred. I wasn't sure. Shaking my head, I couldn't help but curse at whoever made it to be that way. Are you Ren?" As I was heading back, hearing my name being called, without much thought I turned around to check who was calling me. I soon froze on the spot. Soon after, quickly recovering from my daze, a large smile appeared on my face. Perfect timing. Hooking my arm around Kevin's shoulder, much to his confusion, I dragged him all the way back towards the entrance of the building. "Help me out, will ya?" "Huh?" Heading back towards where the guard had stopped me last time, I fearlessly moved forward. Now that Kevin was with me, there was no need for me to make an appointment. Move aside, moving through with my best friend. W-hat? Confused, Kevin couldn't help but glance at me, seemingly looking for an explanation. But before I could answer, obstructing my path once again, the guard's loud voice reverberated throughout a 5-meter radius. "Halt! I've already told you that I'm Kevin?" As the guard spoke, halfway through his sentence, the guard soon noticed Kevin next to me. Stopping halfway, he couldn't help but glance at Kevin in confusion. Smiling wryly, Kevin nodded his head towards the guard. Hello, Ron." Smiling at Ron, with my arm still on Kevin's shoulder, I specifically tried to emphasize how close my relationship with Kevin was. "Hello, Mr. Guard," called Ron. "As you can see, I do have an appointment and it's with my friend over here, Kevin Voss." Seriously glancing between me and Kevin, the guard's frown deepened. Turning towards Kevin, he said, Is what he said true?
Eh.
Speechless, Kevin didn't know what to say at first. He was just coming back from his elective when suddenly, near the entrance of his dorm apartment, he noticed Ren. He had called his name out as he was confused as to why he was all the way near his dorm. Little did he expect to be dragged all the way towards the entrance of his dorm by him. He was really confused. Just what was going on? Just as he was about to confront Ren, turning his head to the side, he was soon subjected to his pleading expression. Though smiling, his eyes were saying, "Say yes, say yes, say yes." Sigh. Sighing, Kevin couldn't help but shake his head. I don't even know why I'm doing this. Glancing towards Ron, Kevin helplessly nodded his head and said, "Yes, exactly what he said." Taking a good look at both me and Kevin for a couple of seconds, Ron stepped to the side and said, "Though I don't believe that's the true story, I have faith in your character, Kevin, so I will let this one slide." Smiling apologetically towards Ron, Kevin thanked him. "Thank you. Thank you." Like that, with Kevin next to me, I finally gained access to the Leviathan building. Clank. Wow. Entering the building, removing my hand from Kevin's shoulders, I couldn't help but be in awe. The word luxurious was an understatement in this case. It felt as if I had entered a new world. The Leviathan building was shaped in a semicircle-like shape, where, in the middle of the building was an enormous park with benches, flowers, fountains, and trees. By the side of the garden, bars and other facilities were present, and staff members continuously serving students that sat outside underneath the sun could be seen everywhere. The whole building looked modern and slick, and although I had still not fully entered the building, I could now understand why Kevin chose to remain top-ranked. This was just too good. So? As I was admiring the scenery before me, disrupting me from my daze was Kevin's questioning voice. Glancing at him from the corner of my eyes, I tilted my head and said, "So, what?" Staring at the park, Kevin asked what had been bugging him since the beginning. "Why did you claim to be my friend so that you could gain access to the building?" He didn't understand. Normally, if a person wanted to enter the Leviathan building, they had to make an appointment beforehand. This was done for a certain reason. It was because the academy wanted to avoid situations where too many students would flock to the Leviathan building. With its top-end facilities, students would no doubt use this place as a hangout spot. The school had set up this place on purpose to be off-limit from the regular students. It was set up like this so that it could also serve as a motivating factor for the students to work harder. This way, students would work harder to get a better ranking and maybe, just maybe be able to enter this building. It was sort of a reward for their hard work. Well, I needed to talk to a couple of people. Raising his brow, Kevin glanced in my direction and asked, "Who?" Actually, I might need your help once again." Huh? Seeing the confusion in Kevin's face, I clarified. "Could you perhaps do me a favor and ask for Melissa to meet me down at the park?" "Melissa? That Melissa?"
Yeah.
"That Melissa, by the way, the cafe over there." Nodding my head, I pointed towards the cafe in the distance. I decided to meet her at a cafe as I wanted to avoid being alone in the same room as her. That girl was dangerous. All right. Confused, Kevin's mouth opened and closed a couple of times. In the end, after a couple of seconds, he nodded his head. Though Kevin wanted to know why he wanted to talk to Melissa, he didn't ask. He wasn't close enough with Ren to ask him about his business. Moreover, he remembered how Ren had saved his life once, so I guess helping him was a way for him to thank him for what he did. Sigh. Sighing, Kevin took out his phone and quickly sent Melissa a message. "Kevin, someone called Rindover wants to meet you." He said to meet you at the cafe inside of our dorm. Ah, make sure you include my name. Ren Dover. Melissa for sure knows who I am. As I was watching Kevin typing, I made sure to remind him to mention my name. After all, I did talk to her before. She was bound to know me. She does? I think so, probably. Now that I thought about it, did Melissa really remember me?
Yeah.
She should. Considering the fact that I had a few interactions with her in the past, chances were that she knew who I was. But thinking back at her character, there was a chance she forgot all about me. That would be problematic. She said she'll be down in 10 minutes. Oh, sweet. I guess she did remember me after all. I was needlessly worrying. Anything else I can help you with? Staring at the beautiful garden before me for a couple of seconds, glancing at Kevin, I thought for a moment before saying. Actually, I do have something to discuss with you too. Pointing towards himself, Kevin skeptically said. Me?
Yeah.
But let's leave that for another time as it'll take a while. Taking out my phone, glancing at Kevin, I said. Do you perhaps have a phone number? I do. Looking at my phone, Kevin nodded his head. Of course he had a phone. Who didn't have a phone in this day and age? All right, exchange it with me. I'll text you when the time comes. Trust me, you won't regret what I will offer you. Taking my phone, Kevin typed in his number. He didn't put what I had said to heart. After all, he had a system. Unless it was a 5-star manual or an plus ranked skill, there wasn't really anything that could catch his interest these days. If you say so. After typing his phone number, checking at the time, Kevin waved.
Goodbye.
All right, I have to go. I guess it's
Goodbye.
for now. Nodding my head, I waved back. Yup, all right, see you later. Like that, Kevin disappeared into the distance. Hoo. Watching him leave, I let out a long breath and made my way towards the cafe. As I walked there, sitting on a chair outside of the cafe, I couldn't help but think to myself. It's a good thing I got Kevin's number. This way, I can find a way to convince him to bring me out of this world. After all, I already had in mind the thing that could convince him to bring me to Amora. Chapter 109, Deals and Feels, 3. All right. Sitting down on one of the chairs of the cafe, I patiently waited for Melissa to come. To be honest, one of the reasons why I chose to directly go to the Leviathan building rather than Section C to meet Melissa was so that I wouldn't be noticed. Last time, although not much, I believe people did find out that I had met with Melissa. I did get stares here and there, but with people not knowing for sure what had happened, it ended there. But that was more than enough for me to feel annoyed. I was already getting plenty of unnecessary attention to begin with. I really didn't want any more. In all fairness, their reaction was understandable. I mean, she was a very popular young girl after all. With how beautiful and smart she was bound to be the center of attention from all of the boys in the academy. Be it junior or senior. Fortunately, this time, I had come prepared. I specifically chose to meet her at the Leviathan building. The most prestigious and high-end building in the whole academy. Reason being? Because, at the moment, only 30 students were officially part of this enormous building. Yes. Only 30. The top 10 from all years. First to third. Moreover, with them being relatively prominent figures, respectively leaders or high-ranking members of their own factions, they would rarely frequent this area. Meaning that this was at the moment, the safest and most unnoticeable place throughout the whole academy. Plus, this was pretty much my only option. Considering Melissa's personality, it's not like I could ask her to meet me somewhere in private. She would definitely reject it even she had goodwill towards me, which she definitely didn't. Either way, although there weren't many students, there were still some, so I chose a rather secluded space inside of the cafe. After all, even if exclude Melissa's popularity, we were going to talk about an extremely sensitive topic. Couldn't afford to let others know what our conversation was about. As I was waiting for Melissa to come, after 5 minutes, I saw her figure in the distance. Raising my hand to let her know where I was, I said, "Over here." Spotting me from the distance, wearing a white blouse and long jeans, Melissa headed in my direction. Wearing thin gold-rimmed glasses, Melissa's elegant figure slowly walked in my direction. As the sun brightly lit the surroundings, as she walked in her casual clothes, Melissa looked absolutely stunning. If not for her personality, I estimated that she would be even more popular. Arriving before the area I was sitting in, taking a chair, she soon sat down and crossed her legs. Frowning, Melissa said, "Refrain from looking at me for any longer than 5 seconds, please. The very image of you repulses me." Speechless, before I had time to respond, glancing around, Melissa added, "I see, so you chose this place because you were afraid I'd do something to you?" Shaking my head, with a smile on my face, I said, "Of course not." She was spot on. Damned witch. Interlocking her hands together, Melissa rested her chin on top of her fingers. Looking at me, she said, "Anyways, let's skip all the pleasantries and tell me why you've called me here." Nodding my head, rummaging through my pocket, I handed her the things I had worked on before. Of course, the paper I had handed to her didn't contain everything that I wrote. Just a small percentage. After all, if the deal didn't go through, I didn't want her to steal my ideas. I just gave her a small fraction of the data. Right here. What's this? Glancing at the paper I placed on the table, Melissa frowned slightly and took it. "Something I've been working on." Raising her brow, she skeptically looked at me. "And?" Nudging for her to open the paper with my head, I smiled mysteriously. "Just look." Noticing my expression, the frown on Melissa's face deepened. She was almost tempted to not open it, but in the end, curiosity got the best of her and she opened it. Huh. As she skimmed through the paper, at first Melissa looked unimpressed. However, a minute later, her eyes opened wide and she sat up straight. Seriously looking at the paper in front of her, Melissa's hands couldn't help but tremble from time to time. Got her. Watching Melissa quickly looking through the draft for the magic cards, a triumphant smile appeared on my face. She had caught the bait. "You, how much?" After a solid minute, putting the paper down, Melissa tried her best to calm her uneven breathing. This idea was something that she had been researching in her pastime, but it wasn't as detailed as this. Moreover, she could tell that this wasn't everything. Smiling, whilst leaning on my chair, I said, "How much for what?" I knew that I had caught her attention. There was a reason why I specifically chose Melissa for the card development, and that's because she was the one who created them. When I said she was the only person smart enough to create them, I meant that literally. Along with the many other inventions she had made, Melissa created magic cards. If there was one person I could rely on for the creation and development of magic cards, it could only be her. Cut the crap, stop beating around the bush and tell me how much for the idea? Placing my hand on my chin, I thought for a moment before shaking my head. Actually, I'm not looking to sell this idea. Taken aback, Melissa's voice couldn't help but raise a few pitches as the aura around her intensified. "What? Then did you just come here to gloat to me about your brilliant idea? It better not be that." Technically it was your idea, but she didn't need to know this fact. Noticing her souring mood, putting my hand forward, I continued. No, actually, I'm looking to cooperate with you. Soon after my words reached her ears, Melissa paused. Frowning, she asked. Cooperate?
Yeah.
Placing her hand on her chin, Melissa questioningly asked. And what will our cooperation consist of? Smiling, I said. You finish the product, I take care of selling it. Very simple, right? Leaning back on her chair, Melissa fell into deep thought. Altoig Melissa had only caught a glimpse of the idea. She felt that if she had more data to work with, she could really develop the concept written on the paper. Moreover, with the money she could make from selling the cards, she could finance her more expensive projects. This was a win-win situation. After thinking things through the inside of her head, seemingly having come up with a decision, glancing at me, she said. 60/40. Tilting my head to the side, I asked. 60 me and 40 you? Shaking her head, she corrected. No, 60 me and 40 you. Smiling, I shook my head. Sorry, but no deal. There was no way I was going to agree to such unfavorable terms. After all, the idea was pretty much almost complete. Frowning, Melissa thought for a bit longer before saying. 50/50. Shaking my head once again, I looked at her in the eyes and seriously said. 90 for me, 10 for you. What? Abruptly standing up, Melissa's ranked aura rose from her body. It soon enveloped a meter radius of where we were standing. Not minding her aura one bit, still sitting down with a smile on my face, I slowly said. You very well know that you're going to make a lot of money off of this, so don't ask too much. Even if she was earning 10%, if the cards sold, the amount of money she could make would without a doubt be more than multiple times her current budget. With how smart she was, she definitely knew this. She was just trying to test the waters, and I saw through her intentions. Realizing that her pressure was doing nothing, clenching her teeth, Melissa's pressure decreased. After a bit of thinking, she firmly shook her head. No, 10 is too little for me. Sigh. Sighing, I shrugged my shoulders. Standing up from my chair, I prepared to leave. All right. Taken aback, Melissa couldn't help but ask. You're leaving? Nodding my head, I confirmed. Yup. Caught off guard by my abrupt behavior, Melissa became slightly flustered. Hat? Aren't you going to keep negotiating? Nope, 10 is already too much for me at the moment. Smiling inwardly, I pretended to not notice Melissa's slightly flustered appearance and waved. If that's all, I guess it's time for me to head back. Biting her lips, after a couple of seconds, weighing her options, Melissa softly said. All right, I'll do 10. 9. Opening her eyes wide, Melissa glared at me and shouted. What? Do you want to die? Didn't you just say 10? Shaking my head, ignoring her outburst, I said. Sorry, changed my mind once again. 8-inch. For a short moment, no words escaped Melissa's mouth. Soon after, her whole body shook. She looked to be on the verge of exploding. In the end, after noticing that I wasn't paying attention to her, gritting her teeth until the sound of her teeth grinding against resounded, Melissa angrily spat. Give me the paper now. Smiling, I knew that I had one. Though I could have pushed it to 7%, I would have had to be prepared for my life to be on the line. Not sure if an extra percent was worth risking my life. Taking out a contract that I had prepared beforehand, I handed it to Melissa. Here. Angrily snatching the contract from my hands, Melissa did a quick skim of the contract before taking out a pen and signing it. You better pray I don't see you around for at least a week, or else. Laughing, I sat back on my chair and leisurely drank my half-finished espresso. No need to be so harsh, we're business partners now. That's not a good way to talk to someone whom you're going to be working with for a long time. Right, partner? Terrifyingly glaring at me, Melissa said. Say one more word and I'll skin you right here and right now. Sheesh, no nay dash. Did you say something? Nope. Shutting my mouth I complied. Tough I won today, I still had to be careful. If I really did get on her bad side, no matter how prepared I was bound to suffer. After making sure that everything was sorted, taking the complete set of files regarding the magic cards, Melissa stood up. Glancing at me one more time, she squinted her eyes and said, "It seems like you're hiding quite deeply, no? From Arnold to the theories and now this? I won't pry because I don't care, but you better not do something to jeopardize this deal, or else I'll make sure you suffer." Soon after Melissa said that she directly left. It seems like she was eager to look through the things I had given her. Sure. Watching Melissa leave, I couldn't help look back at the first time I met her. That time I was a nervous wreck. Thinking about what would have happened to me if I got on her bad side scared me to no end. But after all that had happened to me these past few months, I do have to say that I really had gained a lot more confidence. I was no longer scared of interacting with people, much less the protagonists. I guess my past life influence had caused me to become this cowardly self-cautious person that had become extremely introverted and passive. I sort of trapped myself inside of this self-preserving shell that stopped me from getting hurt. I guess with everything that had happened to me in the previous world, more so than not wanting to interact with them, I was scared of getting hurt. What if this world was fake? What if one day I would wake up finding myself back in my own world having just woken up from a coma? Would all of that had happened to me be nothing but a long dream? Those sorts of thoughts haunted me every day. Now, not so much. I just refrained myself from thinking such things. I realized that whether this world was fake or real, all that mattered was my happiness. Even if it was all fruit of my imagination, why must I hold myself back? At the end of the day, I was the one going through this experience. What did other people's opinion of me matter? Glancing at the blue sky, I took a deep breath of fresh air. My life, my rules, I won't stop at nothing to achieve my own happiness. Chapter 110, Deals and Feels, 4. Shortly after Melissa left, I decided to head back to my dorm. Although I wanted to meet Amanda as well, after a bit of thinking, I refrained from doing so. It was better if I approached her once Melissa was done with the project. After all, I don't think Amanda was capable of understanding the concepts behind magic cards yet. I wasn't saying she wasn't smart. No, that was far from the truth. It's just that Melissa was on another level. Moreover, it was better if I had a tangible version of the magic card before meeting Amanda. This way, Amanda would be able to smoothly convince her father and the Demon Hunter Guild board members.
Bye.
Guard named Ron. Leaving the Leviathan dorm at the gates of the compound, I made sure to wave
Goodbye
to the guard from before. It wasn't a bad idea for him to remember me. This way, it would save me the trouble of explaining why I wanted to go in. Indifferently glancing at me, Ron lightly nodded his head and proceeded to ignore me. Not minding it one bit, I proceeded to head back to my dorm. What's next? On the way back to my dorm, I could cross the magic card project from my to-do list. Though it would take a while, I was sure Melissa would get it done sometime soon. Next on my list. Should I try recruiting Ava? In all honesty, this task was going to be hard. Not because she had some crazy dealings with some other guilds or that she was currently being held back by something. No. The reason was that I really did not know much about her. In the novel, she could have been considered a low-end side character. One that rarely shows up. I obviously didn't give her enough character development as a result of her low appearance in the novel. In my defense, I was thinking of developing her character when the time she showed up to fight the demon army came, but, well, I died. Didn't really get to that part. Thus, I was now facing a dilemma. What was Ava's past like, and what could I use to entice her to join me? Money? Fame? Strength? I needed to know more. Fortunately, I knew someone who could help me. Taking out my phone, I quickly dialed a number. Ring. 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 Hello? Ren? Yo, small snake. What's going on? I need help with something. Actually, before you say anything, I'm currently in the process of recruiting Leopold, so I might not be able to help you right away. That fast? As expected of my right-hand man. He gets things done. All right. Do you think you could do a background search on someone for me? A background search? It depends on who. Ava Leafs, the profile I had previously mentioned I wanted to recruit. Pausing for a second, a loud sigh could be heard from the other side of the phone. Soon after, Small Snake responded. Sigh, you're in luck. Confused, I couldn't help but tilt my head. Did he already do it? I knew this was going to happen beforehand, so I had taken the liberty to do a background check on every member of the list of people you had given me. Opening my eyes wide, a faint smile appeared on my lips. How thoughtful of you, Small Snake. It's not me that is thoughtful, it's just that a certain someone seems to love dumping their work on me. Listening to Small Snake, though he wasn't here, I couldn't help but avert my eyes to the right and switch topics. Right, before you hang up, look up the profile of someone called Benjamin Hoare. I found him to be quite interesting. YOU, did you just not even hear what I had said? KHHHH, KHHHH, what's that, Small Snake? KHHHH, KHHH, can't hear you, probe KHHH, it seems like the signal is fault KHHH. Stop pret. Tack. Damned signal. Turning off my phone, I put my hands behind my back and whistled my way back to the dorm. If only the signal was better. Well, although Small Snake was complaining, I was sure he was going to get what I asked done. It wasn't a coincidence that Small Snake was named the group babysitter. Next week, Monday, Class A-25. Sitting in my usual seat, I nervously looked towards the front of the classroom. For the past few days, nothing much has happened. I mostly spent most of my time training and coming up with a general framework for my company. Mostly regarding its scale and how the chain of command would be. I thought of letting Small Snake take control of the company too, but I refrained from doing so. I had already decided before that this company would have no correlation with my mercenary group. Well, at least on the outside. In reality, it would be the biggest sponsor for my mercenary group. So after a lot of thinking, I decided to hire someone to manage the company. With regards to whom, I wasn't sure yet. I couldn't think of anyone yet. Anyhow, that aside, today was the day that the results would come back. Though I was confident in my physical score, I wasn't too sure with regard to my theoretical score. Hopefully, it wasn't too bad. Okay, everyone, please quiet down. Standing at the podium of the classroom, wearing a nice black suit that perfectly emphasized the outline of her body, Donna raised her hand to get everyone to quiet down. Her hair was currently tied in a ponytail, and as soon as she raised her hand, her violet eyes shone slightly, immediately causing everyone to shut up. Seeing that everyone was finally quiet, Donna continued. Though there was an unfortunate event in the examination, it all went without a hitch. Taking out her tablet, Donna scrolled through it. After a couple of seconds, pressing on her screen, she looked at us and said, I have just sent you the results of the practical and theoretical exams. Soon, if you take out your phones, you should be receiving a message with the details of your exam and your scores. Glancing at her tablet, frowning slightly, Donna continued speaking. Because of past complaints, we will not announce your results out loud. We will, however, not hide your new overall rank, so if you guys are curious about your friend's ranking, you can see it in the class register. It was to be expected. After all, rank meant a lot in this academy. It sort of dictated your standing in the social hierarchy. Therefore, though you could hide your scores, you couldn't hide your overall rank. Another reminder, please don't shout when you get your results back. Please keep calm and quiet. Ding! 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 Just as Donna was about to finish speaking, right on cue, multiple phone notifications resounded across the class. Without pause, like everyone else in the class, I took out my phone and quickly opened my exam scores. Hopefully, I didn't fail. Equals 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 equals. Exam result. Student, Ren Dover. Theoretical exam rank, 1103/1908. Physical exam rank, 81 of 1908. Overall rank adjustment, 197/1908. Equals 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 equals. Well, I guess I didn't fail. Theoretical rank 1103 and physical 81. That was a big difference. It also had to be noted that I was currently in the top 200, not the top 100. It seems like my theoretical score dragged me down quite a lot. Hoo. Massaging my forehead, I couldn't help but take a deep breath. I couldn't be blamed for my low theoretical score. After all, I only had like 4 months to learn all the theoretical stuff that the students were supposed to learn from an early age. Actually, the fact that I wasn't last was already considered a miracle. After all, I did need to memorize the traits of over 100 monsters as well as practice a lot of advanced math for the engineering part of the exam. Fortunately, because the physical exam weighed more, I was still ranked 197. Honestly, if I looked at the results objectively, it wasn't a bad score. It was actually a really good score. Especially since I was previously ranked 1550. Though I do think that jumping from 1550 to 197 was absurd, it actually wasn't that rare. At least not for the first semester. Why? Because apart from a select few, everyone that enrolled in the lock started with similar strength. Only towards the second part of the first year would the difference in talent set the students apart from each other. At least in terms of rank. So although I did jump quite a lot, what I did wasn't something that never happened before. Still, even if I stood out as a result of my rank jump, I wouldn't have minded. The reason why I increased my rank, to begin with, was to increase my popularity. I made it that way so that it would be a lot easier for me to recruit people in my mercenary group. Well, although I did fail to reach the top 100 as I had said I would, in a way, I think this was better. This way, people would still not be wary of me. In a way that they would still underestimate me if they came across me. Moreover, though I failed at achieving my goal, I could use this setback as a learning experience. That not everything went according to plan. I was bound to face setbacks here and there. There was no need for me to brood over this matter any longer. I'll just be content with what I get. Next exams I'll do better. Alright, now that you have all seen your exam score, I would like to inform you guys about another important issue. Pausing slightly, looking towards every student in the class, Donna slowly said. It's about the multi-academy exchange. Huh? Hearing Donna's last words, my head couldn't help but snap in her direction. It was already that time? Chapter 111, Exchange Application 1. It's about the Multi-Academy Exchange. Listening to Donna, I couldn't help but massage my forehead. Damn, with everything that had been going on lately, I forgot all about this. Well, more than me forgetting about this, it was more like it slipped my mind. After all, we still had a couple of more months before this event would happen. As most of you know, during the month of March, we will have exchange students staying at the Lock for a month in preparation for the Multi-Academy Youth Tournament. This time, the Academy has decided that only students from the 4 great academies will participate in the exchange, as the district and regional academies have agreed to exchange with one another. Listening to Donna speak, I couldn't help but find my brows knitting slightly. The 4 great academies. The 4 other human academies that could almost rival the Lock in terms of their educational system. Though they weren't on the same level, they were the closest substitute out there. Ludwig Academy, Theodora Academy, Kusk Academy, Velen Academy. Those were the names of the 4 great academies. The human domain had 5 great cities. Ashton City, Park City, Lewington City, Dromeda City, and Conviction City. Altoag. Each city wasn't far from each other, because of the threat coming from beasts and villains along the way. It took about 5 hours for a person to make it to one of those cities, with Ashton City being the reference point. Thus, if a person from one of those cities wanted to send their child to the Lock, they would have to send them all the way to Ashton City. As a result of this, they may not be able to see their children for a very long time. Some people were willing to do that for the sake of their children's future, whilst some couldn't do it. Be it for economical problems, or the fact that they couldn't part ways with their children, some just couldn't send them all the way to Ashton City to make them join the Lock. And that became an issue. A lot of talents weren't being nurtured properly. Very talented individuals that could rival some of the most talented people in the Lock were being provided with lower-end education. This was a big problem that cost humanity a lot of talented people. Noticing this situation, each city mayor, with the permission and sponsorship of the central government, decided to set up their own academy. One that would be the pillar of their city. Of course, each city mayor wasn't selfless enough to set up an academy for the greater good of humanity. The main reason why they built their academy was to retain their talents and keep them in their city so that in the future they would become high-ranked heroes that represented their city. After all, each city was currently in a tough struggle against the demons. And that's how the 4 great academies came to be. 4 academies that, although weren't at the level of the Lock, were the closest thing someone could get to the Lock. Ludwig Academy, Park City. Theodora Academy, Lewington City. Kusk Academy, Dromeda City. Velen Academy, Conviction City. Anyways, although most of you know that information already, that's not the reason why I brought the topic up. Pausing, Donna took out a pile of papers and placed them on the podium before her. Right here, on the podium before me, there are application forms that you guys need to fill in order to apply for an academy exchange with one of the 4 great academies. Since this year it's the 4 great academies' turn to do an exchange to the Lock, next year, during your 2nd year, it will obviously be your turn. Right. So basically in the month of March, our class will be filled with exchange students coming from the 4 great academies. I already knew who some of them were, as they were either going to become Kevin's ally in the near future or become Kevin's enemy. Couldn't be helped. There was bound to be an arrogant person here and there. The exchange will only last a month or 2, and just like this year, it will start 2 months prior to the Multi-Academy tournament. Squinting my eyes as I listened to Donna, I glanced at the papers on the podium. Another word that had caught my attention as she spoke was the Multi-Academy tournament. As the name suggests, it was a tournament between all academies in the human domain, be it 4 great academies, the Lock, regional, and district academies, they would all be there. It happens at the very end of each academic year, and it wasn't like the usual tournament arcs where it would be a 1v1 tournament to decide who was best. No. It was a tournament with many unconventional games such as the Codebreaker, Academy Virtual Guild Wars, Abyss Scavenge, Tower Defense, and many more games. Heck, one of the games was a retouched version of football. In essence, the tournament was extremely unique. More so than it being something to display the individual achievement of each student, it was more to display the academic might of each academy. It wasn't like those boring tournament games that you would usually get in novels where it just consisted of plain fighting. No, it was very different from that. Another thing about the multi-academy tournament was that it would be broadcasted throughout the whole human domain. Couldn't be helped. There was bound to be an arrogant person here and there. The exchange will only last a month or two, and just like this year, it will start 2 months prior to the multi-academy tournament. Squinting my eyes as I listened to Donna, I glanced at the papers on the podium. Another word that had caught my attention as she spoke was the multi-academy tournament. As the name suggests, it was a tournament between all academies in the human domain, be it 4 grade academies, the lock, regional, and district academies, they would all be there. It happens at the very end of each academic year, and it wasn't like the usual tournament arcs where it would be a 1v1 tournament to decide who was best. No. It was a tournament with many unconventional games such as the Codebreaker, Academy Virtual Guild Wars, Abyss Scavenge, Tower Defense, and many more games. Heck, one of the games was a retouched version of football. In essence, the tournament was extremely unique. More so than it being something to display the individual achievement of each student, it was more to display the academic might of each academy. It wasn't like those boring tournament games that you would usually get in novels where it just consisted of plain fighting. No, it was very different from that. Another thing about the multi-academy tournament was that it would be broadcasted throughout the whole human domain. Chapter 112, Exchange Application, 2. 7:32 p.m. Section B, Lock. Walking along the corridors that lead towards the professor's office area, inside of the main building of the B section, I couldn't help but feel lost. The corridors of the building seemed to stretch endlessly, and the numerous office spaces made it hard for me to find the exact location of Donna's office. I didn't know if this was because she was too humble or that she couldn't be bothered, but Donna, one of the few ranked heroes in the academy, decided to have a regular office. One that was mixed within the masses of offices in the building. Office number 948, 949, 950, 951, and it should be this one. Arriving in front of an office space with the number 952 displayed on the side, I made sure to double-check with the data on my phone before knocking. Knock. Knock. Didn't want to end up knocking on the wrong door. Come in. A couple of seconds after knocking, Donna's crisp and pleasant voice traveled from the other side of the door. Excuse me. Heeding her order, opening the door, I soon spotted Donna sitting on her desk going through a pile of files. Without glancing at me, wearing a pair of glasses, Donna's brows were knit in a tight frown. Clank. Closing the door behind me, I patiently waited by the side. It would be better if I didn't disturb her as she looked busy with something. As Donna was busy sorting out some papers, I couldn't but glance at the office. It was rather small. About the size of a bedroom. Decorations were sparse as apart from a calendar on the side of the wall, everything looked rather plain and boring. Right, there was also a small plushie next to her gray sofa on the side of the office. The lighting was also not that great. There was a large window on the other side of the office. It was currently nighttime, hence why it was dark outside. On top of the office, a small lamp lit the office space, however, its power wasn't very strong as the corner of the rooms were dark. It was kind of sad. Done. 5 minutes after I came in, exhaling slightly, Donna finally finished what she was doing. Stretching her arms, Donna took off her glasses, revealing her two amethyst-like eyes. Noticing that she was done, I coughed a couple of times to get her attention. Excuse me? Surprised by my voice, Donna's brows shot up. Soon after, her head snapped in my direction. Huh? Spotting me waiting in the corner of the room, Donna couldn't help but freeze for a couple of seconds. Shortly after, lightly sighing as she massaged her forehead, she apologized. Sigh, I'm sorry, I was so immersed with my work that I didn't notice you. Smiling understandably, I shook my head. It's okay. I too had those kinds of moments where I would forget everything that was around me and immerse myself in my work. It was understandable. She did respond to my knocking. It seems like, at that time, she had subconsciously responded without being aware of the situation. Plus, it's not like I could really get angry at Donna. She was after all a ranked hero in the hero ranking. With just a glance she could flatten me on the ground.
Yeah.
Let's not get on her bad side. Glancing at me from her desk, with her brows still knit, Donna asked. So what have you come here for? I'm here to submit my application for the exchange. Taking out the sheet she had given to us this morning, I showed it to her. Everything from top to bottom was filled. Yes, there was that. Nodding her head, Donna pointed towards her desk. Okay, put it on my desk here on top of the other applications. Smiling, I complied and placed the paper on her desk. On top of a pile of papers filled with sheets that were similar to mine. All right. After making sure my application was neatly stacked on top of the files, I nodded towards Donna and proceeded to head out. Thank you very much, have a good day, Miss Longburn. As I was heading out, halfway through my way back to the door, I heard Donna call out for me. Wait. Glancing at Donna in confusion, I couldn't tilt my head. Did I perhaps miss something with my application? Glancing at my application on top of the piles of papers, I couldn't notice anything missing. Maybe something else. As my confusion grew, staring at me, Donna slightly lowered her head and said, Student Rendover, I would like to formally apologize. Opening my eyes wide, I froze on the spot as a small audible gasp escaped from my mouth. Huh? Why was she apologizing to me? I was genuinely beyond confused at the moment. What did Donna do to warrant an apology? Glancing at me, Donna had a meaningful look on her face. Let me be more clear. I want to apologize for immaturely assuming that you were slacking off with your training. Snapping me out of my confusion was Donna's charming voice. However, hearing what she had said, my mouth couldn't help but twitch. Did she perhaps find out? How? I don't think she found out during the midterms, as I was sure I beat up Arnold when no one was present. I was sure that apart from Kevin and the others, no one else should have known about my abilities. Actually, aside from the midterms, there was no other way she could have found out about. Crap. Now that I thought about it, there was one way for her to find out. Because I focused primarily on making sure no one saw me, I completely neglected the fact that Donna could tell the time it took me to kill the 79 goblins. Moreover, with me suddenly entering rank, it was no surprise that she had caught on to something. However, I didn't know the full extent of Donna's knowledge regarding my abilities. Hopefully, it was only to that point. Reading my current expression, seemingly having confirmed her suspicions, Donna smiled and said, Anyways, enough with that. I would like to ask you a favor. A favor? Yes, a favor. Once again, I was confused. What kind of favor would a ranked hero, ranked 156th in the hero ranking, possibly ask of me? With her influence, without a doubt, she could get anything she wanted. Therefore, what could she possibly ask of me, a 16-year-old student. In the end, though skeptical, I nodded my head. Sure. Smiling even more after hearing my confirmation, playing the pen in her hand, with a faint smile on her face, Donna said. I would like for you to participate in the tryouts for the Multi-Academy tournament in a month's time. Listening to Donna's request, everything started to click. Right, I understand now. Professors had incentives. Be it for students achieving rewards or getting the best overall scores in the whole academic year, teachers would receive a bonus as compensation for their accomplishments. And therefore, as obvious as it may seem, there was also an award for the professor that managed to get the most students into the official squad for the Multi-Academy tournament. Moreover, if the students excel in the actual tournament, their bonus would multiply by several factors. Therefore, with Donna having a rough estimate of my strength, she wanted me to participate so that she could get an extra bonus. In the end, I was put into this situation just for a measly bonus. Just why? Putting on the most beautiful smile I could muster, I nodded my head repeatedly. A month's time, huh? I think I'm going to be sick that day. As soon as I said those words, silence prevailed in the office space. Soon after, Donna's eyes shone slightly, and instantly a slightly overbearing yet gentle pressure bore down on me. KHH. Surprised by the sudden pressure, I couldn't help but let out a strange sound. Fortunately, although she exerted pressure over me, with the fact that I was still standing, it was evident that she had gone easy on me. Bitterly smiling, I couldn't help but ask. Do I have no other option but to accept? Amused by my reaction, snorting lightly, Donna said. Of course you don't. Resting the side of her cheek on her hand, Donna said. However, don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do this for free. If you somehow pass the tryouts, I will personally coach you in preparation for the upcoming tournament. Frowning slightly, I fell into deep thought. Getting taught personally by Donna. That didn't sound too bad. Let's exclude her beauty aside. One thing that I had noticed in the past 4 months I had been in this world was that I lacked guidance. Everything that I had achieved up to this point was by myself. From reaching rank to reaching the minor realm of mastery for both of my sword arts, all by myself. However, things would have been much easier if I had someone guiding me throughout the process. Oftentimes I would find myself stuck in front of a wall that I would have to break by myself in order to reach a higher level. I know that I didn't have to worry about my rank not increasing, but regarding my sword arts, without guidance, I really couldn't achieve a higher level by myself. At least not at the pace that I wanted. If only I had someone to guide me throughout the process. Perhaps I would have reached a higher level of sword mastery than now. Looking at Donna from the side of my eyes, I couldn't help but realize that she was indeed the perfect person to coach me. With her extraordinary abilities, although she may not use the sword, she could definitely guide me into reaching a higher level. In terms of mana mastery, she was definitely on a league of her own. I could definitely utilize her knowledge to improve myself. Moreover, regarding the tournament thing. Although I disliked standing out, as long as no one found out about my real strength, everything was going to be fine. Moreover, I could just participate in the non-combat related events, this way I wouldn't draw too much attention towards myself. And if I looked at this in a positive way, it could serve as good publicity for my mercenary group. Sigh. Glancing at Donna and seeing her expectant eyes, I could only sigh to myself. Bitterly smiling, I said. What other choice do I have? None. Bitterly shaking my head, I eventually nodded my head. All right, I'll be there. Smiling widely, Donna took a paper from her bottom drawer and wrote my name on it. Great, I'll see you in class tomorrow. When the time for the tryouts comes, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Nodding my head in defeat, I glanced at Donna for a couple of more seconds before heading out of her office. I definitely lost this time. This was probably the karma I got as a result of me scamming Melissa. Chapter 113, Undercurrents, 1. Phew. Sighing in relief, I exited the Section B compound. Donna's request definitely caught me off guard. I had come there expecting myself to just hand in the exchange form and leave, but it seemed like Donna had other plans for me. I was so caught off guard that I didn't have enough time to properly weigh the benefits and the costs of the deal. Sigh. Just remembering what had happened moments before made me sigh. However, thinking more about the deal that I had made with Donna, my mood brightened a little bit. All in all, the reason I accepted was because at that time, the deal seemed to work in my favor. And now that I had more time to think, I couldn't agree more. After all, Donna was going to be personally coaching me for a while.
Yeah.
We would also have coaches training us for the tournament, but they weren't going to train us based on skills, but rather train us for specific games. It just wasn't the same. And although Donna didn't practice a sword's art, that didn't matter. Her mastery over mana and scion control was on a league of her own. Sword arts didn't only focus on swords. No. Scion control was one of the most important factors when practicing any type of art. Let's take the keiki style for example. In order for my sword movement to reach such unparalleled speeds, I had to coat my sword with wind scions. If I had better scion control, I would estimate that reaching the greater realm of master wouldn't take long. Moreover, because of the fact that we were training mana control, I didn't have to reveal the sword art I was practicing, and it would benefit all of my martial manuals since better scion control would improve not only the keiki style but my other arts too. Taking this factor into consideration, refusing would have been stupid. The deal was just too good to refuse. Plus, there was another reason as to why I didn't refuse her. Why would I want to antagonize a ranked hero just for a measly tournament? Wasn't worth it. After all, she only asked for me to pass the tryout, she never said that I had to be a key player. If I managed to become a bench player, I would pretty much get all the benefits with barely any effort. There was no point in refusing if it'd end up with me having a bad relationship with her, as, after all, she could help me in the future if needs be. I needed to build connections for the future. If I wanted to make it till the end of the novel, I couldn't just leave bad impressions everywhere I went because of my mindset. I needed to think long-term. There were times where I needed to take a loss, well as long as it wasn't too big of a loss. Though I said that, smiling to myself, I couldn't help but realize how favorable the situation was for me. Though it looked like I took a loss, I really didn't. I mean, as I said before, I never really needed to be a key player. All that was required of me was to pass, nothing else. Realizing this, I couldn't help but lightly chuckle to myself. She may have won the battle, but I've won the war. Well, we both profited, so I wasn't too sure about that. Regardless, now that that was over, it was time for me to head back to my dorm. It was already late, and I needed to rest. Along the way back to the dorm, recalling something, I typed something on my phone and sent a quick message. It was about time I tackled my biggest problem. Smoke filled the surroundings, as the color red enveloped the sky. The sound of falling debris could be heard everywhere as torn buildings and infrastructures appeared everywhere. Obvious signs of skirmishes appeared everywhere as craters and gashes appeared on the empty streets of the current undisclosed location. KHHHH. With some difficulty, an elegant beauty got to her feet. Her skin was white as jade, and her long black hair gently fell to the side of her face. She looked absolutely stunning, however, there was something different about her. She had two long black horns on the top of her head. Standing up straight, the matriarch's elegant red gown was now tattered, and the outlines of her curvaceous body were revealed. She stood expressionlessly in the center of the wreckage and surveyed the surrounding destruction, as well as the massive crater around her. Silence covered the area she was in. The atmosphere was so stifling that it made one unable to breathe. Less needed to be said to the demons kneeling beside her. After her contractee, Elijah, got killed a few months prior, the matriarch found herself in a state of weakness. Having lost a part of her strength, the matriarch found herself drained for energy. However, despite her current predicament, she couldn't show it on her face. Forcefully swallowing the iron-like taste that coated the back of her throat, the matriarch spoke. "What have you got to say for yourselves?" Angeli khhh. Vuam. As soon as the matriarch spoke, one of the demons kneeling on the ground tried to speak up. However, as soon as the first words came out from his mouth, an overbearing pressure enveloped his body completely. Suppressing the demon with some of the last remaining strength she had, the matriarch slowly said, "Oh. It seems like your respect for me has fallen so low that you no longer refer to me by my title, huh?" The matriarch's full name was Angelica von Droix, the current head of the Charm tribe, a subsidiary of the Lust clan. The reason for her current outburst was because she was currently the matriarch of her clan. Being referred by her name meant one thing: the demon no longer recognized her as the matriarch. "As soon as you got wind of my injury, you tried to seize your opportunity. How sly." As she spoke, Angelica's gaze was directed towards the few demons kneeling beside her. The latter's usually imposing and arrogant faces were now listless and filled with powerlessness. It was obvious that they were currently being suppressed by the matriarch. "To think that you would be so brave, and naive to think that you could stand up to me, thinking that you could beat me just because I was injured. Very brave." As Angelica's bare feet moved around the demons, an imposing pressure slowly formulated around her body. It made everyone present unable to look at her in the eyes. How disappointing! Though she tried to hide the news about her injury from her fellow tribesmen, she couldn't hide it for long. They eventually found out. Thus they schemed behind her back so that they could take this opportunity to rise in the ranks. Unfortunately, they had miscalculated. Although Angelica had been wakened by Elijah's death, she was still, after all, a barren borderline Viscount rank demon. They never stood a chance against her, to begin with. As her slender jade-like legs moved around the demons, Angelica slowly glanced at each of the demons beneath her. Smiling slightly, she opened her mouth. "Were you just here to fight for my rank, or were you here for something else like?" As she spoke, her every word caused the demons around her to shudder uncontrollably. And no. Pausing slightly, Angelica's eyes squinted as she looked towards her left, where a black coffin buried within the earth appeared in the central point of a small crater. On it were several pale skeletons, hands outstretched towards a red gemstone embedded in the middle of the coffin. As the skeleton hands reached for the gemstone, it looked as though they were desperately trying to grab it, forming a strange scene where it looked like the skeleton hands were gently hugging the black coffin. Glancing at the coffin, Angelica slightly muttered, "The coffin of the cursed knight." Vuam. As soon as those words escaped from her mouth, her very presence shone like a star as a red hue that seemed to envelop the world cascaded towards all of the demons' presence. Spurt. 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 As the red hue expanded, the demons' bodies pulverized into dust. They died instantly. Hoo. Taking a deep breath, Angelica closed her eyes, seemingly trying her best to recover her energy. A minute after closing her eyes, as if sensing something, Angelica's eyes slightly opened as she looked towards the distance. "What brings you here, Everblood?" Chapter 114, Undercurrents, 2. Fwop. Appearing from the other side of a tall building, standing in the air, a 2-meter-tall demon with 2 large bat-like wings covered the sun. Staring at Angelica from above, Everblood slightly laughed. "Cuckoo, it seems like nothing escapes your perception, Madam Matriarch, or would you prefer it if I called you Angelica von Droix?" Vroom. As soon as those words escaped from Everblood's mouth, as if he had triggered Angelica's reverse scale, an overwhelming pressure bore down on everything that was around her. Everything that was around her blew away as fine miniature crevices appeared beneath the ground of where she was standing. Staring at Everblood with bloodshot eyes, she venomously spat. "It seems like you have a death wish, Everblood." Noticing Angelica's expression, Everblood covered his mouth. From time to time his body would tremble as he tried his best to hold his laughter. In the end, he failed. "Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo, ha 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 ha. What are you laughing at?" After a couple of seconds of maniacal laughter, wiping the tears that had appeared on the corner of his eyes, Everblood couldn't help but say, "There's no need for you to pretend anymore." "What are you talking about?" Leisurely standing in the air, Everblood glanced at Angelica with slight contempt in his eyes. "That as of right now you are not my match." As if Everblood's words pierced her heart, Angelica couldn't help but grit her teeth in anger. Staring at Everblood in the air, with her jaw clenched, Angelica angrily spat. "So it was you who planned all of this?" Pausing for a moment, whilst still in the air, Everblood shook his hands as he innocently said, No, believe me. I'm innocent with regards to this incident." "Then what are you here for?" Pausing, a wide smile appeared on Everblood's face. Glancing at the black coffin in the corner of his eyes, he slowly said, "I'm just here to borrow the coffin of the cursed knight." Vroom. Instantly, the world around Angelica became dyed in red, as a humongous pressure bore down on everything that was within her vicinity. Taking a step forward, Angelica glared at Everblood. "How dare you, PFFF!" However, before Angelica could finish her sentence, abruptly putting her hand on her mouth, black blood dripped from the gaps of her hands. Noticing Angelica's predicament, licking his lips, Everblood couldn't help but chuckle as he slowly descended from the air.
Ah.
"It seems like you've run out of gas. What a pity, cuckoo. You." Kneeling with one leg on the ground, Angelica gazed at Everblood's figure slowly descending in the air. A hint of helplessness appeared in her eyes. Glancing away from Everblood, Angelica couldn't help but stare at the black coffin a few meters away from where she was. The coffin of Cursed Knight. An ancient demon artifact that she was granted due to her meritorious deeds. It had the miraculous effect of granting fast recovery as well as increased training speed. It was an almost godlike item that every demon below Viscount rank would drool over. Its value was tremendous. If not for her tremendous strength, she would have never been able to keep the coffin until now. However, as soon as news of her contractee dying spread, lower-ranked demons instantly tried to fight her for it. Winner takes all. That was how the demons operated. Even if you were of the same race, the demons didn't care. To them, primordial desires overtook their rationality, prompting them to greedily take whatever they desired. Only through power could a demon rule over another demon, and now that Angelica was in a weakened state, it was her turn to face the music. She was alone and powerless. Here. Throwing a black round object towards Angelica, Everblood made his way towards the black coffin. Swoosh! Taken aback, catching the object with her right hand, Angelica couldn't help but take a look at the object she caught. Huh? A demon fruit? Take it as a little compensation for me borrowing the coffin of the cursed knight. Staring at the demon fruit in her hand, Angelica wanted to throw it back at Everblood, but considering her current strength, she could only helplessly take the fruit. Smiling at Angelica's resignation, Everblood arrived before the coffin.
Ah.
Just the thing I needed. Glancing at the coffin a couple of more times, Everblood nodded in satisfaction. This was indeed what he was looking for. Because of an incident in the past, he had been severely injured and lost a major part of his strength. Now, with the aid of the coffin, he could finally recover from the injury and even climb towards a higher rank. Taking the coffin with both hands, Everblood's smile deepened. Before leaving, glancing at Angelica, who seemed to have lost all reason to live, Everblood amusingly said, "It's time. Listen here, matriarch, I may have a clue with regards to who was responsible for your little puppy's death." Snapping her head in Everblood's direction, Angelica's face became ferocious. Her body suddenly became revitalized as the ground around her shook. Rumble. Who? You better not be playing tricks on me. Cuckoo, no need to be so aggressive, here. Smiling widely, Everblood shook his head. Taking out a picture from out of thin air, Everblood lightly threw it in Angelica's direction. Swoosh. Huh? What's this? Catching the picture with her hands, Angelica glanced at it. On it, a picture of a youth with jet black hair and deep blue eyes appeared. In the picture, he was seen wearing a casual set of clothes, walking in a busy shopping district. Glancing at Everblood, Angelica questioningly asked, "Who is this?" Smiling, Everblood didn't respond. Fwop! Extending his enormous bat-like wings, he took the large black coffin and slowly levitated in the air. Well, I guess that's it for me. I hope you resolve your little problem. YT. Ignoring Angelica's voice, levitating in the air with the coffin in his hands, Everblood flew in the air. Soon he disappeared into the distance. Helplessly watching Everblood fly in the distance with her coffin, Angelica stared at the picture in her hand. So you are the one. Foua. Burning the picture in her hand, Angelica slowly stood up. Stumbling a couple of steps, she deeply etched the image of the boy in the picture. I don't care if you aren't the one who killed Elijah, but since you are my only lead, you will have to be the one to bear the consequences of my wrath. Not so far from where Angelica was, in the air, glancing below him, the smile on Everblood's face vanished. Oh, how I waited for this moment. Because of what had happened 3 months ago in the dungeon, Everblood has lost a lot of supporters within the tribe he was in. Recalling the humiliation he faced at the hands of a young kid, Baron of Everblood's face couldn't help but savagely twist. Because of you little bastard destroying my clone, I lost part of my strength and everything that I had worked hard for, my position, my strength, my honor, everything. Fiercely glaring at the ground below, unbounded thick bloodlust enveloped the area he was in. His bloodlust was so thick that it slowly created a tangible wave of red. Fwa. However, the bloodlust left as fast as it came. Staring into the distance, Everblood's smile relaxed. But that's fine. Taking out a similar photo to the one he had given to the matriarch, Everblood caressed it slightly as his face twisted savagely. Looking at the picture, Everblood spoke to it. Almost as if he was speaking to the person himself. Can you imagine my surprise when I saw your picture when I was investigating what had happened to Angelica? At first the very sight of you caused me to be overwhelmed with rage. You wouldn't believe what I went through because of you. Levitating in the air as he casually talked to the picture in his hand, it looked as though Everblood was talking to one of his old lifetime friends. I lost my elder position, I was scorned by those of whom used to be my subordinates, and what made things worse was that I couldn't fight back as my strength dropped below the Baron rank. I was no longer called Baron of Everblood, just Everblood. Pausing, Everblood looked into the distance as he reminisced about the things he went through the past 2 months. After a couple of seconds, staring at the picture in his hands, Everblood continued. In the midst of my despair, the only thing that kept me sane was the very image of you.
Ah.
Just imaging myself torturing you in the worst possible ways caused my heart to shudder uncontrollably. I wanted to meet you so many times. Just imagining myself skinning you alive enthralled me to no end, but I realized something. Stopping there, Everblood's face became serious. Glancing at the picture he rhetorically said, Wasn't that a little bit too anticlimactic? Wouldn't killing and torturing you now be a bit too anticlimactic? I wanted you to despair just as much as I did, no, on a level that was far beyond what I had experienced. Pausing there, a smile returned on Everblood's face. Recalling something, Everblood's body trembled as he started chuckling uncontrollably. Cuckoo, at first I thought that targeting your family would have been enough, but guess what? To my surprise, when I saw them from the distance, they were both already under the Mindbreaker's curse. Oh, the laughs. On that day, I laughed like I had never done before. Just imaging your predicament as you found out about your parents' curse.
Ah.
The chills I had on that day, cuckoo. Covering his mouth to stop himself from laughing, Everblood continued. And so, after realizing how much joy I took in from imaging your suffering, I decided to hold back. You just weren't fat enough for me yet. For me to reach an even bigger euphoria, I needed for you to grow even more, stronger, more successful, happier. Only when you fall at your highest that my revenge will finally be complete. Crump. Crumpling the picture in his hands, Everblood slowly spat. Only when you have a face of utter despair will I finally be able to wash away the shame that you had given me, and finally be complete. Foo. Burning the picture in his hands, Everblood stared at the embers flying in the distance. I hope that once I wake up from my little slumber, you will still be alive. After all, I have high expectations of you, Rendover. Glancing at the matriarch in the distance, Everblood's smile deepened. Though you may not have been the one who killed her contractee, I'm sure Angelica cares none for that, but, oh well, if you can't accomplish this much, what worth is there in me putting all of this effort to get back at you, cuckoo. Thwop. Flapping his enormous bat-like wings, whilst carrying the enormous black coffin with both hands, Everblood disappeared in the distance.